Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 2,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy the content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
Faithful trade season has officially arrived in Santa Clara, and the first domino has already fallen. San Francisco just pulled off a genuinely fascinating roster move, and here's the part that's going to blow your mind. It cost them absolutely nothing. Not a draft pick. Not a single dollar of meaningful value. They essentially got a proven veteran linebacker, someone who once made a Pro Bowl and racked up an eye-popping 5 career picks, 6 touchdowns, completely for free. But buried underneath the surface of this seemingly minor transaction is a much bigger story about exactly what new defensive coordinator Raheem Morris is trying to build in San Francisco, and why this specific move might tell us more about the direction of this entire defense than almost anything else that's happened all training camp. Let's break down every layer of it. Here's the deal itself, stripped down to its simplest form. San Francisco sent running back Raheem White to the New Orleans Saints. In return, they received veteran linebacker Deion Jones. And here's the beautiful part for San Francisco. Raheem White wasn't even projected to make this team's final 53-man roster in the first place. With the star lead running back healthy and returning to practice, the exciting rookie running back also back on the field, and another young running back recently returning from injury as well, White had become expendable depth on a crowded backfield. So essentially, San Francisco converted a player who was destined to get cut anyway into an established NFL veteran at a position of genuine schematic interest. There's no draft capital changing hands here, no meaningful cost whatsoever. It's about as close to a win-win, no-risk transaction as you'll ever see in professional football. But here's where this story gets genuinely interesting from a schematic standpoint. Deion Jones isn't just any random veteran linebacker. He has real, meaningful history with San Francisco's new defensive coordinator. The two of them worked together previously, back when Jones was playing the prime years of his career, and that connection appears to be the entire driving force behind this move. Jones is now 31 years old, clearly past the absolute peak of his playing career, but back in his prime, he was genuinely one of the best coverage linebackers in the entire league. He made a Pro Bowl appearance under this same coordinator's tutelage, and over the course of his first 5 or 6 seasons in the NFL, he accumulated 11 interceptions, including that jaw-dropping total of 5 career pick 6 touchdowns. That's elite ball-hawking production for any linebacker, let alone one who entered the league as a somewhat undersized second-round pick. And that undersized element is actually the key to understanding why this trade matters so much beyond the immediate roster numbers. When Jones entered the league back in 2016, he represented a genuinely new archetype at the linebacker position. Smaller, quicker, more coverage-oriented, built to run with tight ends and running backs in space rather than simply thumping ball carriers between the tackles. He came in checking in at roughly 220 pounds, which was a notable departure from the bruising type that this coaching staff has been aggressively targeting through recent draft classes. San Francisco has been loading up on physically freakish, exceptionally long linebackers, prospects with absurd wingspans built for maximum coverage versatility in this new hybrid defensive scheme. Against that backdrop, it would have been fair to wonder whether a smaller, more conventionally built linebacker still had a real path to relevance in this new system. This trade answers that question emphatically. By trading for a smaller, coverage-savvy veteran who thrived specifically under this exact coordinator earlier in his career, San Francisco just confirmed that there absolutely is still a role carved out for that specific body type and skill set within this evolving defense. It's not an either-or situation between the giant, long-limbed hybrid defenders and the smaller, quicker coverage specialists. This coaching staff clearly wants both archetypes represented in the linebacker room, mixing size and length with quickness and coverage instincts. There's also a very real, practical timing element driving this move. San Francisco's presumptive third linebacker, working primarily in coverage-heavy packages. recently suffered a hamstring injury during the team's preseason matchup out in Los Angeles. The severity of that injury remains uncertain, but it's created an obvious gap in the linebacker rotation heading into the final stretch of training camp. Adding a proven veteran with direct experience running this exact coordinator's system, even one who might ultimately end up as practice squad insurance rather than a lock for the 53-man roster, gives this coaching staff valuable flexibility while that younger player works his way back to full health. And here's an angle worth sitting with for a moment because it says something bigger about how this new coordinator operates. There's a well-worn pattern in coaching, especially when a new defensive play caller takes over a roster full of unfamiliar faces. Bring in a handful of trusted veterans who already understand the system inside and out. Players who can essentially serve as coaches on the field, helping accelerate the learning curve for a younger, less experienced locker room. This organization has actually seen this exact pattern play out before, years ago, when a previous defensive coordinator took over and specifically brought in veteran players from his prior system to help teach and stabilize the new scheme for a young roster. History appears to be repeating itself here in a smaller, cheaper, lower-stakes way. Even if Deion Jones ultimately ends up as nothing more than a well-compensated mentor on the practice squad, having someone in the building who has already lived and executed this exact defensive vision carries real value for a linebacker room filled with talented but unproven young players still learning an entirely new scheme. Speaking of that scheme, this whole situation offers a fascinating window into just how significant a shift this new coordinator represents for this franchise. This might be the single most dramatic schematic overhaul this organization's defense has undergone in nearly a decade, dating back to when the current head coaching staff first took over and implemented what became a long-running, relatively stable defensive identity. Sure, there have been tweaks and modest evolutions along the way over the years, different coordinators cycling through, minor scheme adjustments here and there, but nothing quite as fundamentally different as what's unfolding right now. This new defense is expected to lean heavily into hybrid, position-blurring personnel groupings, deploying more five-man fronts and utilizing defenders capable of playing multiple roles simultaneously, part lineman, part linebacker, sometimes even part safety and coverage. It's a deliberate attempt to address a run defense that has genuinely struggled over the past couple of seasons, while also unlocking more aggressive, varied pressure packages. In fact, that same veteran linebacker being acquired in this trade posted his own career-best pass rushing numbers under this exact coordinator years ago, generating real measurable pressure as a blitzer in that same system, which lines up perfectly with what's already being observed in camp, where the coaching staff has been dialing up considerably more blitz pressure from the linebacker, position than fans have grown accustomed to seeing in recent seasons. That aggressive philosophy becomes even more relevant when you consider the uncertainty currently surrounding this team's edge rushing core. One promising young pass rusher is expected to miss a significant chunk of the season while recovering from a serious injury, likely beginning the year on the physically unable to perform list. The team's star edge rusher, while actively working his way back and being carefully ramped up for the season opener, still carries some lingering uncertainty given his extensive injury history at that position. And just recently, another key rotational piece up front missed practice with an undisclosed issue, forcing the coaching staff to bring in several outside pass rushers for workouts as a precautionary measure. Put simply, this defense's exterior pass rush remains heavily dependent on its top players staying healthy, and if that group experiences any additional setbacks, expect this new coordinator to lean even harder into aggressive blitz packages to manufacture pressure by committee, exactly the kind of approach that a savvy veteran cover linebacker with real blitzing experience could help support. So what does all of this mean for the actual linebacker room heading into final roster cutdowns? A few spots appear locked in regardless of how this specific trade shakes out. The team's star middle linebacker is obviously safe, as is the presumptive weak side starter assuming health cooperates, along with the highly touted rookie linebacker with that absurd record-setting wingspan. Beyond those clear locks, there's a genuinely fascinating battle brewing for the remaining depth spots. One that could ultimately reveal a great deal about exactly how this new coordinator envisions rounding out his ideal linebacker room. A versatile special teams standout who delivered a strong showing during a memorable postseason performance last year appears to be gaining real traction for one of those valuable backup roles. Whether the recently injured third linebacker and this newly acquired veteran both ultimately make the initial 53-man roster remains genuinely uncertain, especially with the exact severity of that hamstring injury still unclear. But regardless of how those final roster spots shake out, this trade already accomplished its most important underlying purpose. It confirmed intangible, actionable form, exactly the kind of positional adaptability and personnel philosophy this new coordinator intends to build around, all without costing this franchise a single meaningful asset. So there you have it. A trade that looks like a minor roster shuffle on the surface, but underneath carries real schematic significance for understanding exactly how this defense is being reshaped from the ground up. A proven veteran linebacker acquired at zero real cost, a direct coaching relationship that speaks volumes about scheme philosophy, and a genuinely fascinating linebacker room battle still very much unresolved heading into the final stretch before roster cutdowns. If breakdowns like this are exactly why you love following this team, you already know what to do. Smash that like button to help this channel reach even more Niners fans just like you. Drop a comment down below and let us know whether you think this new veteran linebacker makes the final 53-man roster and how you think this evolving defense is shaping up overall. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because we're bringing you fresh 49ers coverage all the way through the rest of the preseason and deep into the regular season grind. Until next time, faithful, keep the faith.